Hey, this is Frank Agin, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. If you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my friend Scott Ferguson.
Time to Shine Today, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson, and this is episode 123 with my really good friend Frank Agin. He's the founder of AmSpirit Business Connections, a fantastic networking group that has a great sense of community. Frank just dropped some serious knowledge nuggets on us regarding lift up other people's worlds, and yours will automatically be lifted up. You know, great networkers focused on other people. He goes on and on. So it's fantastic. He's a fellow Midwesterner, a fellow Patriot, and I can't wait to bring you into this episode and have you listen to my really good friend Frank Agin from AmSpirit Business Connections. Hey, time to shine today, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson, and I've got my, I guess, kind of a fellow Michigan friend here. He lives in Ohio now, but he kind of grew up as a Youper there in the Upper Peninsula, there in the Mitten. And as you all know me here, I have roots in the Detroit area, and it's nice to talk to people from the Midwest. The conversation always flows. It always goes great. And today, we've got the ultimate connector. My friend Frank Agin, and he is the founder of AmSpirit Business Connections. And he not only is the founder, he's the president of AmSpirit Business Connections, which empowers entrepreneurs, sales representatives, and professionals to become successful through networking. He also hosts the Networking RX podcast, which you have to check it out. I'll throw that in the show notes, which has insights and interviews related to better business relationships. Finally, Frank is the author of several books. Check the show notes. He's got books like Foundational Networking, The Champion, Chase Greatness. They're all fantastic reads, so you grab those in the show notes as well. And he is carved out a little bit of time. It's been a long time coming. He's been patient to wait on me, and he's just fantastic. And so, Frank, come on and introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today squad in a minute. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
Well, my favorite color is blue.
Right.
My favorite color is blue because it's on the American flag.
There you go.
I'm the ultimate patriot. When I was growing up as a kid in Michigan, my dad built out a room for me. I had a choice of carpet, and I went with red, white, and blue, right?
Oh, love it.
I visited my childhood home, and the carpet's still there. That's great.
Even since you were a kid, you love the country. Thank you for loving country. As my listeners know, I was a veteran, did a bunch of deployments back in the early to mid 90s, and to be able to talk to somebody that loves this country as much as I do is very, very refreshing. But although we love all points of view here on Time to Shine today. But hey, Frank, give us a little bit of the origins that you have from where you started to how you came up to launch AmSpirit.
Well, as you alluded to, I grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. My father was a professor there. I went to college in Wisconsin, got a great education, and that led me to attending law school at the Ohio State University. I got a law degree and an MBA. I never really planned on staying here. I got a job with a really big accounting firm as a tax consultant, and I'm really entrepreneurial. And so after about 6.5 years, I said, I want to do something on my own. I left. I went into private practice. And I tell people, Scott, that a funny thing happened when I went into private practice. And the funny thing was that nothing happened. I had no idea how to get clients. I was that jerk at networking events, right? We all know who he is.
Here's your card. Here's my card.
Yeah, exactly. That's me, right?
Right.
And it doesn't work. And so after about a month of that, I had lunch one day with a friend of mine who was an attorney, and she took a different path. She started her own firm. And I said, well, what do I need to do to be successful? I don't want to be begging for my job back. And she said, you need to get into a tips club or a leads group. I really didn't know what she was talking about, but through a couple introductions, Scott, she connected me with a group of people that were meeting once a week to learn about each other and exchange referrals. And they were starting a brand new chapter. They needed an attorney, and it made total sense to me. I could lift up my world by lifting up the worlds of people around me. It's so easy for me. It's so easy for me to go all day long and just brag on you, right? And at the end of the day, feel great about it. and you do that for yourself for 10 minutes and you're exhausted. So I really got involved in that, became its first franchisee. And then back in 2003, late 2003, I executed a buyout and then rebranded it as AmSpirit Business Connections, which is short for American Spirit. Again, back to the patriotic roots.
Love it.
So that at that point, I just said, I'm all in on this. I stopped the practice of law and have just continued to help people in small business America become more successful through the relationships around them. And so I just believe that I call small business the new American revolution.
Absolutely.
It really is.
So what was it sounds like you made a transition, Frank, but was there during one of maybe your leads groups or one of them that you sat in that you had an aha moment that you said you're going to launch AmSpirit?
Well, as I was in the group, I looked at, I was just a member, I was just an attorney. I'm like, wow, this is really neat. You can help a lot of people. And I was good at it. I'm good at connecting people. I'm good at helping people with referrals. I'm good at explaining it. When I had an opportunity to be a franchisee, I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
Sure.
And I told my wife, I said, 40 years from now, if I stay being an attorney, it's not a bad life. I know what it looks like. It's a decent life. But if I take this other path, I can really impact a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And feel good about myself. So that was really kind of the jumping off point. It was a risk, right? It's always a risk.
So what is the difference between you and that 3-letter word, the B&I? Like, what's the difference between you guys?
I get that question a lot, and
Sure.
and my answer is I really don't know because I've never been in B&I. I mean, I hear things and I could say things, but people who are telling me about B&I, they're people who've had bad experiences for the most part, and I don't think that's fair to B&I.
No.
What I really like to talk about are the things that I'm passionate about, what we're passionate about, all my franchisees. One, we're very passionate about members exchanging quality referrals. We call them qualified. When you're given the name of somebody to contact, they will be expecting the call. We're not sending one another on wild goose chases. Hey, call my neighbor, don't let him know I called. That doesn't work.
Right.
The second thing,
it does happen though.
Oh, I know it does. But it's like, but it's awkward. It's if I want to refer you, Scott, I want to set you up.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, Scott's going to call you. He is amazing.
Sure.
He took care of me. He took care of friends. And so when you call my neighbor or whoever, wow, I'm so happy you called. You may not get to business, but it puts you in the right place at the right time. The second thing is education. I see so many people who run into problems because they do a poor job of explaining what it is they do. Mm-hmm. They talk about what they do. You're a realtor. Sure. Being a realtor is a what, right?
Right.
Hey, a good referral for me is somebody who needs a realtor. Okay, so what?
Right.
You're much more. But you're much more powerful when you start talking about the wins. Hey, if you know somebody who's living in that 400 square foot apartment that just had a baby, that's a win. That's when I swing into action and find them their first home.
Love it.
Right?
Sure, absolutely.
That's a win. And so we do a lot of educating people to talk about their wins. And there's a whole series of education we do to get them good at not just getting referrals, but teaching them how to give referrals as well. Because that's really the lifeblood of the organization. And the third thing that we're real passionate about is creating a sense of community. I have franchisees, a growing core of franchisees across the country, and they're all in contact with each other, and the chapters are in contact with one another. Sure. We did a leadership program last week, and I had people from Boston on the phone with people in Arizona.
Love it.
And so I don't know what BNI does, but that's what we do, and that's what we really are passionate about.
Sure, I belonged to BNIs before, and I don't have anything bad to say about them, but other people do. So I just thought I'd kind of throw that out there. So what do you think makes someone a great networker? And if you're watching a video or if you're listening, I put that in quotes, air quotes. But what do you think makes a great networker, Frank?
Well, you know what? I think it's really simple. And someone who is a great networker is somebody who's focused on other people.
Love it.
I know we come to networking because we want to get things. I call it the ultimate bait and switch, right? Hey, come on down. We'll sell you this conversion van for $20,000. It's fully loaded, and you get down there like, oh, we're sorry, it's gone.
Of course.
But we have a $60,000 model. and networking's the same way. People come to it; they're attracted to it because they want to get things. But the people who are the most successful are the people who give things. You're
Absolutely.
successful because you've had this, the blog, and you're doing this podcast. You may not look at it this way, but you're giving to other people.
So that's the way we look at it, right?
Yeah.
It's a go-giver, right? Bob Berg kind of thing, if you ever read.
Absolutely.
Bob Berg's my neighbor over here. So
yeah.
It's like, but tell us about a bad referral you've ever made that came back to almost bite you.
Oh,
my listeners love to hear kind of a fail forward, if you will.
Yeah. A bad referral. It's been so. Well,
that's why he's a pro, peeps. That's why he's on here.
Yeah, that's a hard question. I think there are referrals that I have given that just haven't worked out.
Sure.
Because I don't know the situation well.
Has anybody ever came back to you and said, you're crazy for referring this person?
Yeah, I've had that.
Okay.
I've had that.
How did you bounce back from it being the face of a big organization like you are?
Well, my thing is that you only know so much about people. Like, for example, there was one guy I referred, and the person I referred him to called me and said, hey, that guy you sent me? Yeah. I'm waiting for this glowing review because I was totally enamored with the person. Well, you can tell that son of a bitch, pardon my expression.
You're fine. You're fine.
You can tell him never to call again. I'm like, excuse me? And I went on to describe, are we talking about the same person?
Right.
Wears a suit, hair like this? Yeah, him. And the guy just had a different persona dealing with clients than he did dealing with me. He kind of went in with clients and he was, hey, I'm gonna tell you what you need to do as opposed to how can I serve you? And,
he turned off his Labrador Retriever and turned on his pit bull in front of the person, right? And I have a pit bull, so no offense, Stitch. My dude's right here next to my feet. So, but all right, well, no, thanks for sharing that because people like to hear it and it's real, you know, Frank. So if how do I say this? Usually, I like to have a good networking question, but are you guys nationwide or what's your story with areas?
Yeah, we're at this point we're in 8 different states. We just launched in Chicago. We are we're expanding across the country. We are actively looking for people. We're looking for people who want to become part of this.
Okay.
And the question I always ask, and you'll appreciate this being a realtor, would you rather rent an apartment or be the landlord? And that's a rhetorical question for the most part, right? Most people are going to say, I'd rather be the landlord. And so what I ask people is do you just want to be in a networking organization or do you want to own a networking organization? Because that's what we do with our franchisees, our managers, our leaders, teach them how to get these things started. People in Chicago, I'm just teaching them what I know, and they're working with their contacts. So there's probably people listening out there who are in groups, if they have an interest at all in owning groups, not one group, but several groups, and being kind of the kingpin of a network and not just making more money from their connections, but making money connecting people. Those are the types of people we're looking for.
Love it. Okay. We're going to keep that out there, folks. And at the end, I'll tell everybody how to get in touch with me to get in touch with Frank. So I got to backtrack a little bit. What did your family think about you leaving a law practice to start this? Were they supportive? Or are they like, what the hell are you doing, Frank? Or what was their take?
Well, it all kind of dated back to 95 when I left the big firm to go into private practice. And it was, I feel bad for my father who he's still alive, 86 years old, doing well. But in the span of a month, my brother had left the Air Force to start his own consulting business. My sister had started her own law practice up in Minneapolis. And I went into private practice. And here's my father who, he was a professor. And that was the world he knew. He knew that very secure world. And so he was like, oh, my gosh, what's going on? But when I don't think so. At that point, they were the whole family was kind of they were acclimated to, hey, there's an entrepreneurial spirit within this family. But there were a lot of friends who were just really concerned.
Okay.
You're walking away from a law practice to do this.
Right.
And I think everybody kind of, not that there's nothing wrong with practicing law.
No.
But everybody thinks like, you live up on the hill in the $1 million mansion, and that's not it.
Right.
What I would tell people is, practicing law to a certain extent is like being that. You're a glorified plumber.
Sure.
You solve the problem, you get paid, and that's done, and you're done.
Sure. Right.
Doing what I'm doing, I am building a brand. I came up with the word AmSpirit.
Love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
And it's got value to it, and that's something I've created. And now, what happens with that? I'm not a greedy person. I'm not really worried about that, but I just have the ability to really kind of help lots of people all across the country.
Sure. Has any companies ever tried to come after you because of your name? Because it seemed American Spirit, it could seem like almost an airlines or like another company. Did anybody ever try to come after you regarding that? I thought it out there because I love the name, but I just had to ask it.
No, part of the reason I chose the name, when I was in the consulting business, I knew I was looking for a way out. And Scott, I had this notion of creating a brand of sportswear that was all American made. Everything was being shipped in overseas. And, to be honest, I really didn't know anything about the business, so it never went anywhere.
Right.
So when I was looking for a unique name for this, I came up with the name AmSpirit, but I already had it trademarked.
Good. Okay.
Trademark. So
Gotcha.
that had been done for years.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. Okay.
Yeah, I did have a group when I first renamed it Leave. They said it sounds too much like Amway.
Okay.
And my financial planner called, my advisor, who's still my financial advisor, and he said, I got to tell you, people are really nervous about the name.
Okay.
What are your plans? I'm like, Eric, I don't have any plans. I have burned my boat. This is what I'm doing.
Baby. Hey, go ahead.
But 6 months later, he called back and he was like, you know what? People really love this. They love the name.
Good.
It's
love it.
grown on people.
No, I love it. I love the name. And being a Patriot myself, absolutely love it. So let's get in our DeLorean with Marty McFly. Let's go back to the 23-year-old Frank Agin.
Yep.
What kind of knowledge nuggets are you dropping on that Frank with the wisdom and experience you have now to help him shorten his learning curve and level up?
I have kids about that age.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing I tell them. It's all about your relationships. Start building relationships. I've got a daughter who just graduated from college, and she is uber connected on LinkedIn. She has more connections on LinkedIn than most people who've been on LinkedIn for years. And it's just, start building relationships. Don't look at people as transactions. Look at them as relationships and what you can do to help them. And they'll naturally want to help you in return.
Sure.
When I was that age, I was just in law school. My whole mindset, my whole world was focused on get smart, be as smart as you can, learn as much as you can. And in reality, that's important, but the relationships are a whole lot more important.
Absolutely. So it's more about who you know than what you know a lot of the times. Because a lot of times, if you don't know something, you can ask. We call it get your asking gear here at Time to Shine today.
Yeah.
But no, I 100% agree with you. And I got to get you on another podcast. So Travis Chappell, Travis is phenomenal. I built a lot of my foundation of this. He has a podcast called Build Your Network. Okay. Fantastic. We got to get you on that one. I'll reach out to Travis, and he dwarfs my podcast, and he's fantastic. So we talk a lot about the dash here at Time to Shine today. I want to know how you want your dash remembered. From the dash between the life date and death date. How do you want people to remember Frank Agin?
I want people to remember me as somebody who was a community builder. Certainly AmSpirit is a community, but I'm building other communities, informally. Mm-hmm. I have a network of not-for-profits that I bring together monthly just to talk about their challenges. It's a networking group. It's totally free. Come on in. You guys all have challenges, but you all have solutions to one another's challenges. So let's come in and let's share. And I've recently started building a network of people across the country of people who are like me, who are like
Mm-hmm.
Josh Tapp, that are really well connected and just kind of sharing information.
Right.
I want to, years ago I wrote goals for myself, and I have goals for myself with respect to, retiring and wealth and things like that. But 3 goals, or one goal I have, is to help 3 people get to $1 million net worth. Certainly my kids, but just other people. I just want to help other people.
Yeah. It's almost like you're almost putting on a mentoring hat there. My mentor, said that the more you mentor, the more immortal you become, So
yeah,
absolutely. Frank, what's the one thing you know for sure?
Wow. I mean, it all keeps going back to, it all keeps coming back to networking. The one thing I do know for sure is that we are hardwired to help each other. I read an article that was talking about Margaret Mead. Margaret Mead's an anthropologist, a big name anthropologist. And one of the students in her class asked, what was the first sign of human civilization? Thinking they would get an answer like, spear tips or clay pots or something like that. And what Margaret came back with was, she thought about it. She came back, she said, a healed femur. She says, in the animal kingdom, femurs don't heal, because if an animal breaks its femur, that's the bone that connects the knee to the hip.
Right.
When that bone's broken, and you're done.
Sure.
But to find a being, and it takes 6 weeks to heal, but to find a being that survived that means that somebody cared enough to stay behind.
Wow.
And so we are hardwired. We're
Right.
hardwired to help each other.
That's amazing, Frank. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So let's take our computer, let's take our tablet, our cell phones, all out of this next question. What's 3 things Frank can't live without?
3 things I can't live without. No tablets. I do love to read.
Okay,
I do love
good.
to read.
Books are good. You've written a plethora of them.
Yeah, I have. Well, I've written a ton too. I've written a ton. What 3 things I can't live without. Certainly books, having access to books.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly having the ability to go to church. I like going to church.
Love it. Okay.
For me, it's like rebooting the computer.
Okay.
And not put some religion on anybody.
No, you're good.
You believe.
I feel you.
Yeah, but just kind of have that moment of quiet reflection. And I do enjoy going for walks with my wife in the morning.
It. Beautiful. No chicken wings or any food or nothing. So I'm a chicken wing snob.
Yeah,
I love my chicken wings, brother.
Oh, we could go all day about food. I'm a pizza guy, but
okay.
I love all food too.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Frank, what's your definition of a life well lived?
A definition of a life well lived is being able to call your own shots, to be able to say, oh, this is, I had impact doing something that I was passionate about, and inspiring other people to kind of carry that on.
Love it. Well, your passion. I'm taking some notes, people, so right. I'm writing this down. So that's fantastic. So, Frank, how can we find you?
Everybody likes to communicate all sorts of different ways. What I have done is I've set up a website, frankagin.com.
Sure.
It's an easy way to get to my email, to get to my LinkedIn, to get to my Facebook. You can see all the books I've written. You have links to my podcasts on there. I actually have 2 podcasts. I have one that's, that you had mentioned, a short form podcast. Mm-hmm. And then I have a minute daily podcast that's just inspiration, insight, networking tips, 1 minute every day.
Love it.
So all that stuff is in one place at frankagin.com.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Also, what is the Charitable Roundtable?
The Charitable Roundtable is this, I'll give you some backstory.
Sure.
5-6 years ago, I was sitting and looking at my network, and I said, well, I've helped a lot of small businesses, but I know these small not-for-profits, and I want to try and help them too without having to say, okay, I want to get into a cancer charity or homelessness or whatever. I want to try and help them too. So what I did was I brought a handful of them together, and I said, listen, I know what everybody's number one challenge is here. It's money. We're not going to talk about money.
We're real. You're real.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it, because if we talk about money, everyone's going to clam up. But Let's talk about all our other problems. And so they started sharing And I said, would you guys like to continue to do that? And that's that other community I alluded to. It's a group of not-for-profits. Every month you come in, it's totally free. Share, what are the challenges? What are the successes you've had? You've had challenges. How can we help you through them? You've had successes. How can those successes help other people?
Beautiful. Beautiful. Love that. And that'll be in the show notes as well, people. As we wind things down here, Frank, I got kind of a leveling up lightning round. 5 or 6 questions. You and I could talk 15, 20 minutes on each, but you got 5 seconds, no explanations. Yep. You ready?
Yep.
Awesome. What's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Best leveling up. Work hard. Just work hard.
There you go.
Yep.
Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
I get up early every day.
Love it. Love it. What is out? Not the books you've wrote, not what you're reading now, not the flavor of the month that's out there, but name one book that if someone's in the doldrums, they really need to level up. Like mine's The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews or The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. What's the book you kind of hand somebody?
This is the book that was the kind of the launching point for all my reading, all my writing. How to Bringing Out the Best in People by Alan Loy McGinnis. I don't even know if it's in print anymore.
Awesome. I'll find out if it is, folks. I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
So what is your most commonly used emoji?
Oh, the smiley face.
Smiley face, my man. Awesome. So if you could be, and don't say your age now because that's the cliche. If you could be one age for the rest of your life, what would it be? For the rest of your life.
For the rest of my life, I would say it would be early 40s.
Love it. Love it. It's a great time. Last question. What is the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
I would say 80s.
There you go. His big hair, don't care. I love it.
Yeah.
So leave us, Frank, with one last knowledge nugget you want us to take with us, internalize, and put into action.
Oh, okay. Very simply. If you're looking to get yourself networked, this is a simple thing to do. And I'm very passionate about this. Find something you're passionate about. Maybe it's cancer, maybe it's dogs or pets. And then find an organization to volunteer with.
Wow.
That'll be the number one thing you can do for yourself. You're giving back, and you're giving back with people who love what you love. And you don't ever have to talk about yourself or what you do. They will find out if you're committed to that.
I love it. I love it. In Squad, we just had basically a free masterclass with my good friend Frank Agin from AmSpirit Business Connections. And he told us that a great networker is focused on other people. And if you're out there and you're kind of sick of being the renter and you want to be the landlord, reach out to me. I'd be happy to put you in touch with Frank, or just go to his website, then everything will be in the show notes. He says, everything is about relationships. That's what he would tell his younger self. He wants to be remembered as a massive community builder with a heart. He puts the right people with the right situation. Call your own shots, make an impact with what you're passionate about. And if you find a passion that you like and you want to level up that passion, go out, get your ass out there and volunteer at something. And that really will connect you with the right people and also fill your heart with what your passion even more. So Frank, you're so humble, yet you're hungry. You're leveling up your health. You're leveling up your wealth. You love your country. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for coming on the Time to Shine Today podcast. You're part of our squad now. You can't go anywhere. And thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
Good day, man. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you're a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.